going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a crazy few weeks because of all the fires going on. It's been so smoky, and I hope everyone's doing okay and staying safe with all the fires. But today's pretty much the first day where it's actually some clearish weather. You can still kind of smell the smoke, but it's not nearly as bad as it has been. So I figured it's about time we get some more work done on the WRX. If you haven't seen my last video, I installed some hood pins for the WRX, which are still working great. But for today's video, I'm going to be working on the turbo. The turbo that's on the car is actually the turbo from the JDM engine. The TDO4L is right here. And the reason I didn't put this on the car and I've been running the JDM engine is because this was on the engine that I pulled that had the spun rod bearing. And so basically I just didn't really want to risk throwing that turbo back on, so I've kept the JDM turbo on there. I can't remember, I took pictures of the model turbo that was on the JDM engine, and I can't remember what it came off of, but when I looked it up, I believe it didn't come off of a WRX. But I figured it would work for smogging the car. But I do want to throw the TDO4L back on the car, but I can't do it obviously because of that spun rod bearing. A lot of people actually don't know that you can get what's called a cartridge, which is just the inside of a turbo. So basically you have your intake turbine housing and then your exhaust turbine housing, and then you have the cartridge. And this is what your cartridge looks like. And this is a cheaper way to fix a turbo. It's more expensive than a rebuild, but it'll be more reliable than a rebuild. It comes balanced from factory, so you don't have to worry about that. So basically you just have to swap it in, swap the housings over, all the lines over, prime the turbo, throw it on the car, and you're good to go. You have a brand new turbo. And I am planning on eventually going with a bigger turbo. I'm just not going to do it right now. So I didn't want to spend the money to buy a brand new turbo. So I'm going with the cartridge just to make sure I have a healthy turbo in the car and I can actually push it and have fun with it without something bad happening. So what I have to do right now is I'm gonna go ahead and clean this turbo up. I'm not gonna use any of the lines that are on this turbo. I'm gonna be pulling the JDM turbo and all the lines are the same. So I'm gonna be using those lines. And since I'm gonna be pulling the intercooler and the turbo and all that, I'm gonna go ahead and swap out the up pipe for that aftermarket catless up pipe I have. And I'm also gonna be throwing my cold air intake back on. So first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this turbo up and just get it as clean as possible. And then I'll go ahead and show you how to take it apart and get that new cartridge installed. So it got super smoky and pretty much pitch black by 5 o'clock because I guess there's another fire that's pretty close by. So I ended up calling it, which is okay because I had to go get some supplies anyways. But I finally got the cartridge and the whole turbo taken apart. The exhaust housing over here ended up being pretty rusty actually from sitting around. So with a little bit of persuasion, I finally got the old cartridge out. Let's see if I can show you the inside here so you can see it all in there. So I need to get this guy cleaned up, which is what that acid's for. It's going to be used to get all the rust and everything cleaned off of this, so I'm going to be soaking it in that solution. And then this guy I'm just going to clean up. I use some super clean degreaser. I just mix it in a spray bottle 5-to-1, and it works really well for degreasing pretty much anything. And I did figure out what model the turbo is in the car. I'll throw it up on the screen, but it is out of a Forester, so it is a smaller turbo than the TDO4L. Once I get that out, I'll show you the size comparison. So I just need to start getting this stuff cleaned up.
Yeah.
is back on. Everything's put back together. I already bench primed the turbo, so we need to go ahead and pull the ignition fuse and then prime the turbo for a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and start it up and let it run for a while. So the new cartridge is in, TDO4L is installed, and it's running really well. I went ahead and let the car run for just idle for about 10 minutes. It helps break the cartridge in and get oil through the whole system. And you're not supposed to rev it or drive it during that time period. But after that, you're pretty much good to go. And then I need to get it tuned because the JDM engine has a little bit different compression than what the US engine has. And plus I have a cold air intake and stuff on it, so just to be on the safe side. But that's definitely the next step to getting the car fully functional, and then I'll really be able to drive it, push it, have fun with it, and get some really cool mods done with it. But that's it for today's video. I'll see you in the next one.